was, fuck it, let me just see what I can do and just like send out some crazy offer. Maybe they accept it, maybe they deny it, but it doesn't matter. At least I get it out there. And I landed a lot of opportunities doing that. The original goal was to bank up that 100K and then go backpacking.
Just for context, that is the opposite of the way Sam is right now. There's not a chance in this world.
I've gone through those spirals. I've messed it all up a million times, more times than I'd like to admit. And from there, I've learned my lessons.
If you're facing adversity like that and then you just crumble, like shit, no one's coming for you, bro. You're gonna stay exactly as miserable as you are unless you do something about it. I read this in a book when I was 14. It's called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and chapter 1 is about take responsibility for your life.
If you're out of motivation, the next guy who doesn't need motivation because he's disciplined is gonna come in, take your fucking prize, and you're still broke, and this motherfucker's rich now. You know, do your parents have to fucking worry about the bills? Like, holy shit, if this is a factor and you need motivation, what you really need is a fucking kick in the balls.
Again, and they saw me stumble, you know, but I was incredibly resilient. It was the books I read, the mindsets that I developed from ages 14, 15. Again, we come back to how did I do this? It was the cumulative effect of all of this work. My overnight success was 5, 6, 7, 10 years in the making. And that was how I dusted myself off from all of these L's that I took. I got straight back to fucking work and I recovered everything. When everything's popping off, when you're in Dubai and everyone's becoming a millionaire left, right, and center, and you know, there's a 300K deal going here, there's a 50K deal here, there's a yacht party, there's models, there's like a lineup of Ferraris.
created, started trading at 15, and that took me to 17. I dropped out. That's the elevator pitch of what happened, and now I'm 19 here on this yacht in Dubai with you.
That's
so it's
amazing, man.
I'm only gonna get business if I'm a good trader. This is, they go hand in hand. No one's gonna pay me money if I'm shit at trading. So, because my reputation was that. I was the young prodigy that everyone was like, well, who the fuck is this kid? We've never heard of him. And now it was literally, bro, it was so crazy. I would be making profits of upwards over 100% per trade with nearly 100% success rate, and it lasted like 2-3 months.
You met Andrew Tate, and you got to hang out with Andrew Tate, it looks like. What was that experience? How did you two get connected?
Hit him up on Twitter. I was like, yo, I'm a young guy making money, what's up? We just kind of clicked over that. He just likes people that are ambitious. He's the one that pressured me to buy my first Porsche. I'll never forget his text, all caps, do it. That's it, an order, straight from Top G, an order. I have a Porsche. A beautiful car. I've sent that car to London by plane, toured it in Europe. I actually took it here in the Alps, which was one of the best experiences of my life. And that car is one of my favorite things in life. Money does buy happiness because it buys Ferraris and Porsches, and I stand by that statement proudly,
I still remember when driving transitioned from exploring my new freedom to maximizing the joy of every moment behind the wheel.
$5,000 I paid for a beautiful vacation with my mom, and that was the first time that I kind of became the man of the house in some way, taking care of things, making sure everyone's eating, stuff like that. And I was 16 at this point. I mean, I was young.
I mean, a lot of people, especially in crypto, this is what I try to beat out of people on my YouTube channel, is they think, if I click buttons and trade, I make money. And that's not how it works. It's not like the more you log into Bybit, the more you look at your charts, the more you do XYZ, the more money you're gonna make. That's absolutely not how it works. The only way you make money in these markets is by waiting for good opportunities, the right timing, the right setup that fits your risk profile, and you execute when the time is right. That's it.
In life was fuck it, let me just see what I can do and just like send out some crazy offer. Maybe they accept it, maybe they deny it, but it doesn't matter. At least I get it out there. And I landed a lot of opportunities doing that. The original goal was to bank up that 100K and then go backpacking.
Just for context, that is the opposite of the way Sam is right now. There's not a chance in this world.
If you're facing adversity like that and then you just crumble, like shit, no one's coming for you, bro. You're gonna stay exactly as miserable as you are unless you do something about it. I read this in a book when I was 14. It's called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and chapter 1 is about take responsibility for your life.
What's going on, guys? Welcome in to another live stream. We've got quite an incredible start to the year. Bitcoin is currently sitting at $94,000, 200. Do you know what? Just before we do really kick this off, let's get a quick audio visual check. I think everything's working good, but practice has told me to not take that for granted. We've got a $94,000 Bitcoin sitting right here at resistance, and this is all coming off the back of Venezuela, the news that unraveled over the weekend. So plenty to go through here in this live stream. I just want to absolutely be certain that the live stream has switched. I think we're there, but let me just double check here. I think there's just a massive delay. That's probably what's happening here. Yep, definitely just a massive delay. So, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Who we got here? RSCA side boy from the French Alps. Hell yeah, enjoying some snowboarding. What's going on, guys? Welcome into the live stream. As usual, let me know where in the world you're watching from and how you're feeling about the markets. I really want to know how we're feeling about the markets today. here on this live stream. Sounds and looks good. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Welcome in, guys. We've got the S&P 500 gapping up on its open today. This is a really big deal. The fact that we've got the S&P 500 gapping up on the open. So let's dive straight in. Here we are. Bitcoin currently sitting at $94,200, and at the moment we're kind of bashing our heads up against resistance that has been long established. This resistance level has been weighing on this market in some pretty significant ways, going back to the 4th of December, but really just when we entered this range, which was actually kind of more like mid-November, actually, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? The fact that it's now been over a month and a half, or around a month and a half that we're kind of stuck dealing with this stuff. But that's where we are. And if we're getting the breakout here right now, we're potentially looking at 95K, 100K kind of price levels and far beyond. So definitely very, very exciting stuff. Ladies and gents, if you are tuning into our live stream here, do me a favor and smash up those likes as you are coming in here. Let's see if we can smash these likes up to 50 here on this live stream. Do I see a pump coming? I mean, we're in a pretty decent pump right now, and that's pretty exciting. So we'll see where this goes right here, because we might end up seeing something take shape throughout the course of this live stream. This is usually a pretty kind of volatile time of day, especially when interesting things are happening. And speaking of interesting things, we covered this in the last live stream here. I'm sorry, in the last video. But oil has actually managed to move up a tiny bit in light of the recent developments, which is pretty damn impressive. It seems like it doesn't matter. Obviously in terms of like immediate short-term price movements, there's going to be some, I'm pretty sure, very reasonable explanation for why oil ended up moving up in response to basically a near guaranteed increase in supply because of the US's involvement in Venezuela. However, that doesn't seem to matter because risk markets got the message. Bitcoin sits at 94,300 and we're currently continuing to rally up. So that is absolutely fantastic to see. And in fact, let's go ahead and switch over to the DGen cam and take a look at Bitcoin on the 1 minute time frame here on the right hand side as we kind of settle into this this price action here that we've been observing. That's kind of, a look at Bitcoin for kind of what it's doing here on the 1 minute time frame. It is pushing pretty aggressively. This kind of structure right here on the 1 minute time frame. I mean, it's definitely more realistic, than most of the price action we've been getting in the recent months. And even in the recent weeks, especially in the last couple of weeks. But, yeah, good to see. I mean, what are we doing here? We've got 92,300 at the lows, and then we pump up to 93.7. This is basically the resistance block. I mean, we're kind of still in the resistance right now. But, yeah, continuing to push higher right now here on the 1 minute time frame. So we'll keep it locked over here on the DGen cam on the right-hand side as we continue to take a look at that. Smash up the likes for the DGen cam if you guys appreciate taking a look at the DGen cam on the right-hand side here. Shout out to David Co. I know you love the DGen cam. All hands brace for breakout. I mean, it might not be that dramatic, right? Because Bitcoin loves to pull off fake outs, essentially. And, if we are looking at, similar kind of situations where we start seeing fake outs come into this market again, then, we might be looking at a little peak, 95K, come back down. And that wouldn't be too bad, if we pull off something like that. That really wouldn't be, concerning, or it wouldn't be anything that upsets me. But, obviously I'd just be looking for support. And if that does happen to Bitcoin, then, this is pretty straightforward. We can just look at where we were encountering resistance over the last month and a half, which is basically, we've got 88.5. We've got 90. We've got, we've got a couple of levels, but I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I mean, those are the levels that we're going to be looking at if we do see a kind of pop and then it comes back down. But the reason I'm not worried about that happening is because this is coinciding with the stock market, and that's quite important because we haven't actually had that going for us for quite some time. Take a look at Bitcoin on the DGen cam here, by the way, guys. I mean, this is quite incredible. Look at this, 94,400, and we are now just kind of peaking above the resistance level that I have drawn here. Is my face lit up very well, by the way? It looks, wow, it actually looks pretty good. The lighting is pretty good. It actually looks pretty good. That's good to know. I was just why it's looking a little bit dark on my side, but actually that's my brightness. The lighting is pretty sweet now. Yeah, we've been upgrading a little bit over the new year. We've been upgrading a little bit. Welcome into the stream, guys. Welcome in. See if we can smash these likes up. Where are we at right now? I can't actually see the likes right now, but where are we at? Oh, they're not updating on my side. That's why I can't see them. But 94,400, we are getting that breakout right here. Let's talk about levels if we do start breaking out. Real quick, the reason I don't care too much if we drop is because, again, like I said, stocks are moving. And if stocks are moving and if we're really getting the breakout, and it just really feels like there's a lot of pressure that's about to release, that's definitely, making me feel optimistic about what might happen with Bitcoin. And if we do take a look at, what might be in store for Bitcoin here, let's zoom out a little bit and take a look at, yeah, I mean, this is a really nice chart, guys. This is a really, 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 really nice chart. You cannot convince me otherwise. I mean, if this pumps through the roof now, it looks so typical of Bitcoin. It really does. Let's just say, let's say it does something that looks, that starts looking a little bit more like this. Say we even get a nice big drop first before we pull it off. Because that could totally happen. We're not allowed to be happy. Don't forget that. Not if the crypto manipulators have something to do about it. We're not allowed to be happy. What's up, 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐻? Shout out to 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐻 in the live chat. That dude changed my life. I love him. One of the coolest guys in the world. We're not going to be expecting necessarily a straight line up. So I just want us to keep an open mind. But the point is, the formation here that we've kind of pulled off just looks so typical of what Bitcoin does. And I think that with that in mind, if we do manage to pull off a bigger breakout, I don't think we're going to see necessarily much of a problem up ahead. I think that, there are some significant kind of resistance blocks up to about $100,000. That's for sure. I am on the treadmill, yes, sir. And I'm going to talk about your funds landing in a second. But, 100K, that's kind of where, a lot of the resistance stretches up to. But 94 has acted on the market in such significant ways since late 2024. We're now in 2026. This price level has held weight in this market stretching across 3 years now. Well, really just a year and a bit. But it goes into, a huge time frame. And I can't say that about any other price level until 107. Right? There's no other price level that you can look at on this chart. See, all the trading that happened in the last, look at this. All the trading that happened in the last 420 days, all took place right here on this chart. You're looking at it. There's no other price action that Bitcoin did. Which is, first of all, is quite incredible, right? I mean, I do just have to say, for the bears out there, I mean, how's your hypothesis holding up? Are you... I don't understand how people have managed to convince themselves of such a bearish set of narratives when this market is just consolidating. And it's like, well, which technical theories are we following here? Or are we following technical theories? Because one of the early technical theories you're going to learn
is that markets love to consolidate. And it's starting to look, you know, again, especially if we get a break up, it's starting to look a lot more like consolidation. But we're still not out of the woods. Bulls are not out of the woods. Bulls can still get absolutely decimated. All right, bulls can still lose a lot of money here. There's a lot of ways that this can go wrong. There's a lot of ways that we can find ourselves down below $70,000, $80,000, $60,000. There are still many ways that this market can pull that off. Shout out to those of you tuning in live here. Smash up the likes if you are coming in here. You absolute legends. We're about to crack 100 here. Still working through the algo, the shadow ban. Oh man, YouTube's been doing us dirty out here. But you guys are here. You guys are showing up. Appreciate it. That's why I don't really see any resistance up ahead until kind of 106. And that's why I think that Bitcoin can pop pretty aggressively up there. You know, I really do think that that's a pretty realistic probability at this point. 11 likes away from 50, I think. Or 9. Amazing. Thank you guys very much. You know, that's why I don't think that we're necessarily going to see much resistance for... And this is quite a big gap. So, you know, we talk about trading opportunities. Obviously, this is a big area where a lot of opportunities can open up. The problem is that a lot of people are going to try and kind of go long once Bitcoin breaks kind of 94, 95, like once it breaks 95K with some conviction. And again, Bitcoin's tendency is to pop and then kind of retrace back down. And so, you know, and that's going to, you know, exclusively be a kind of liquidity hunt. And we've seen, you know, a lot of liquidations lately, even in shorts, you know, a lot more than at any point in kind of recent weeks and months from what I've seen. And that's good. You know, that's going to be good for the market to be able to continue rallying up. And I really feel like if that does continue to you know, to take place where we keep pushing up and we keep liquidating shorts, it's just going to be such an easy ride up. And that's kind of what happened on the reverse, right? So if we remember what happened on 10/10, October 10th, when was that? That was right here. On October 10th, we ended up having the crypto massacre. But really the staple move of the crypto massacre on 10/10 was a liquidation hunt. But who got liquidated? It was the bulls. All right, it was the people that were long on this market that got liquidated. And, you know, really, if we look back at that a little bit, since we're here on a live stream and we can talk, if we look back at it a little bit, what happened here was, you know, going long on the market. If you're looking at, you know, crypto following, you know, TradFi, which is a super reasonable kind of perspective, if that's kind of where your head's at, well then you would have to expect that Bitcoin would follow and Bitcoin would be setting all-time highs. So when this liquidation event happened, I think what this really underscored for the entire industry is that, yeah, we really do have this message. I don't think this is lost on anybody. You know, that the leverage in the markets still weighs massively, and that there's still a lot of manipulation, and that this is still a very immature industry. It really wraps a lot of lessons into one, and I think that's why we continue to move down. But as we continue to move down, really, again, the staple, you know, the prized lesson that we got from it, the kind of main attribute of the drop was that longs were continuing to get liquidated. So once again, we take a look at it from this perspective, and we're already starting to liquidate shorts where we are today. And we're going to have a lot more shorts that have built up in this range. I mean, guys, let's get real for a second, yeah? Like, first of all, we haven't even gotten the breakout, but let's say we do have the breakout. Let's say we're a couple days or a couple weeks ahead, however long it takes. And we do have the breakout. In that situation, we can say with a lot of hindsight, with a lot of clarity, that this was a really fucking bearish range. And a lot of people lost their minds in this range. A lot of people really lost themselves in this range. And I think that's important to keep in mind. I think it's important to keep in mind that, you know, a lot of people really struggled to keep their heads afloat in the market during this period here. Whether it was with altcoins, whether it was with Bitcoin, really anything and everything. So I think that's going to be important for us to keep in mind. because there's a lot of shorts that probably built up in this price range. And it's not like they didn't have time either. They had a whole month and a half to build shorts in these price ranges. And again, you know, all those stop losses, all those liquidation levels, they're going to be scattered in these ranges. And it's going to allow the market to rip higher. So that's if we get the breakout. But that's why I think that it can be a really quick rise up to 106, 107. Now, at 106, 107, there is definitely the possibility of finding resistance. And by the way, there is the possibility of finding resistance before that level. I feel like I've made that clear at this point, but just in case I haven't, let me say explicitly, we obviously have resistance levels between here and 106, but I don't think that those resistance levels are going to be much of a problem, especially if we're strong enough to break 94, right? It's taken us a whole month and a half to even get this far, and we still haven't broken it. So this is a really significant level. And I don't see any other levels in between to be anywhere near as significant as 94 or 106. And yes, because of that, I think there's a very good probability that when we hit this level, if we do, there's a real possibility of a pullback at this price point. And if we do manage to pull off a pullback at this price point, I can see that pullback coming down to any of these lighter support levels. I can even see that pullback coming down to the support that we kind of start this off with, the breakout level, where we, in effect, produce a 100% retracement. And we might do that a couple of times. You know, it might not take that long. It might actually look a little bit like, I mean, you know, if I give you a literal example, you know, of it happening, it would be, you know, more or less here. Something that looks a little bit like this, right? Like, it might only take a month and a bit, 2 months, whatever. It might be a week. I don't know. But I definitely think that there's the possibility of us ping-ponging inside of this range. And I don't know where we would ping-pong from or to. But I think that it would be somewhere between 94 and 107. I wouldn't be worried about that if it does start happening. If anything, it would be healthy for the market. But I don't feel like the probability of any of that is particularly high. I think that the probability is higher that we simply fly through this resistance level. And the reason I'm saying that is, again, because of stocks, right? Bitcoin has quite a bit of catching up to do right now. And when Bitcoin reactivates, it doesn't necessarily take it super slowly. You know, the last time it happened, it was a pretty aggressive move. And it set all-time highs pretty quickly as well. I mean, if we measure it from the low to the all-time high that it set right here, that was 42 days. So, you know, I mean, 42 days from, you know, the low is like basically where we are now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we're like 44 days after the low. So we've clearly, you know, recovered a lot slower here, if this is even the recovery itself. Again, that's still not guaranteed, and we don't want to take that for granted. And actually, you know what? On that note, we've covered the resistance levels. There's a lot more I want to get to, including resistance at 117 and so on. But let me get back to that in a little bit. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about... Well, first of all, I want to talk to you guys about 𝐂𝐜𝐻𝐻's comment. 𝐂𝐜𝐻𝐻 said, I'm still waiting for these fucking funds to land. And what he's talking about is that this dude, bless him, hasn't managed to buy enough crypto yet. And obviously, like all of us, you know, none of us have enough crypto, you know, but he really doesn't. And now the price is moving and his funds are not available. Yeah, because he's depositing. This is a problem that everybody runs into at some point. I've run into this problem more times than I care to admit. What you need to keep in mind as a trader is that your competition is not making these kinds of mistakes. Your competition already has capital positioned and they already have a plan formulated for any potential outcome that might take place. If you're not doing that as well, you're selling yourself short and you're already probably prey for these people in the markets anyway. You have to keep that in mind. You know, if you want to be in this game, you owe it the diligence, the respect, the care that the professionals put in. There's no reason for you to not treat this as though you even have ChatGPT and Grok, okay? So I'm sure you can figure this out. If you want my helping hand there with it, BroFi linked at the top of the description. You get direct access to me, my own tools and strategies, and our weekly shows. Our next weekly shows in a couple of days, and that's where I'm giving you guys detailed breakdowns on my trade setups, my ideas that I'm kind of looking at inside of the market, and so on. We also have our comprehensive analysis and trading course. This is currently in the coming soon section, but I think it's actually been moved because this course is now up. It's we're still putting updates out. However, the content library is very strong right now, and members have found it really useful. There is a group chat as well. It's going to be our performance-driven community. Nice keywords, obviously. You guys get the deal. But it's a group chat, and it's incredible. There's great energy inside. So if you want to get yourself inside, it's $100. It's linked at the top of the description. Check it out. It's really changed the trajectories of quite a number of traders already. And we're still in early access, so that's pretty cool. So check it out. Smash up those likes. Shout out to you, Professor. Appreciate that in the live chat. BroFi linked at the top of the description right there. Kind of going for a before and after story here. You can pause to read if you're interested. We'll talk about BroFi a little bit more later on, but that is linked right here at the top of the description. And again, if you are looking for places to actually trade, Bybit and Blofin are going to be some of the best spots in this industry. Obviously, when you start trading using these links, you get really cool bonuses, so that's cool. But you know, wherever you choose, you just want to make sure that, and by the way, I have to say, make sure you're not from a restricted region. Read the disclaimers. You know, what I do want to say though is that wherever you decide to trade, wherever you decide to buy, you need to have these things thought out and prepared in advance before you need them. Specifically, you need to do it specifically before you need them. Let today be that day, if you can. If you're so willing, let today be that day. It's good to have that attitude, especially in the markets. And the reason is, again, you know, the more you have that attitude, the more diligent you're going to be, the more likely you are to protect yourself from bad trades and so on and so forth. So it is essentially like a dividend that keeps paying sort of thing, you know. So that's really, really nice. But bringing it back to the markets, let's talk a little bit about the downside before we talk more about the upside. And there is a lot more to talk about for the upside, I feel. But let's talk about the downsides first. And then we're also going to be going through some more traditional finance stuff, some altcoin stuff, some oil stuff. Probably going to take a look at Twitter, some stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty sweet. But for now, let's just take a look at Bitcoin here on a slightly more intimate time frame, on the 4-hour time frame here. And you know, really just observe what this market has given us over the last month and a half. It's been an ascending triangle. You know, I think that's kind of, you know, one of the easy key takeaways I kind of have from this. And, you know, I don't really know how I want to draw this, and I also don't really care, which is really nice. And the reason it's nice is because it means that I'm not getting bogged down by the unnecessary details, you know. But here's a kind of rudimentary, you know, ascending triangle that I can see right now. It's not perfect. We're missing some wicks. We're not reaching these wicks. But you know what? It looks like an ascending triangle. And so, you know, with that in mind, there's definitely the potential for this to kind of drop down, find some more support around 88K, whatever. This was a really nice zone of support earlier. So, you know, the market would really benefit from backtesting it. As far as losing that level, that would probably indicate that we're coming down for fresh lows. And if we're coming down for lows, I would probably, again, have to expect that we set something in the 70s. Honestly, with the state of this market, what I've seen, I don't even think we'll get below 70,000, at least not immediately. I think if things really start to tumble down, I have to expect a floor somewhere above $70,000, anywhere above $70,000. Maybe with a bounce, and then we get below 70, if that's where we're truly headed. And that's definitely still possible. If there's any point where it's going to happen, it would be around about right now, where we start pulling that off. But it would also be very likely to happen if Bitcoin manages to rise up to 107. And the reason for that is if Bitcoin does manage to rise above 107, it's going to be, well, even up to 107 actually, it's going to be in some pretty serious, what's called bull trap territory. Bull trap. What do we mean by bull trap? When we say bull trap, what we're talking about is bulls are essentially going to be getting trapped in a hype narrative that says that we are setting all-time highs. And that hype narrative is going to get really strong if Bitcoin surpasses 94, 95K. But that hype narrative is going to go into overdrive, and absolutely everybody and their grandmother is going to be believing it if Bitcoin crosses into the mid-100,000 range, like the mid-110s. If it gets to like 115, 114, whatever, stuff like that, 112, it's gonna get crazy. You know, it's going to start being spoken about quite a bit again. And so in these kind of environments, it's very easy to, if the market manipulators really want to take us there, it's very easy for them to start triggering a reversal, especially if the rally is happening because of hot air. You know, in other words, especially if the cause of the rally is nothing, it's just hype, it's just thin air, right? If that's what's happening, then I think what we're potentially looking at here is a really, really violent setup essentially for a reversal, which would suck. You know, that would be kind of annoying, but that's just what we would be potentially dealing with if we get there. Now, the reason I don't think we're looking at that, and the reason I'm not worried about that personally, is because from what I can see here, by the way, thank you guys for smashing those likes up right past our target. Let's see if we can hit 100. If you guys are enjoying this stream so far, if you guys have found value out of it, if you feel like it's keeping you calm, doing its job for you, smash up those likes. I really do appreciate it. Thank you all very, very much. We got Papa Pub says, I had a dream 2 nights ago. It was me pumping Bitcoin with my biceps. And the price pushed into the 97K range tomorrow. Keep pumping, bro. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. We will be taking a look at XRP in a moment here. We're going to be going through all alts, but I do want to talk about this here for a minute. If we do end up, if we do end up kind of rallying based off no good reason, we can definitely kind of reverse and have a really nasty drop after that. At that point, if that happens, I'd probably have to hang my hat. I wouldn't actually. I would still be bullish, because you can't unbullish me in this market. This market is really bullish, and it doesn't really matter to me what happens short term, even mid term. But the reason I don't think that's going to happen is because we are rallying on really, really good fundamentals. This rally really kicked off with the Venezuelan news. And like I said, the US oil chart is not reflecting it. The US oil chart is actually moving up a tiny bit rather than down in anticipation of that increased supply. And like I said earlier, that's going to be, some reasonable explanation based on just, I don't know, like supply and demand or whatever. You can't unbullish me, you're damn right. And so that's the kind of oil price situation. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because Bitcoin right now has started this particular rally that it's currently in purely off that Venezuelan news. And in addition to that, in fact, so too has the stock market. The stock market, if we take a look at this right here, and we can go onto the hourly even, and look at this from right here. This is the Sunday beginning of futures. And this was obviously after the announcement in Venezuela, or about Venezuela rather, and the S&P gaps upward. It's not a big gap. I don't want to give this too much credit, but you know what is a big gap? This is the futures chart. The real S&P 500 chart pulled this off from Friday to today, Monday. It pulled this off, and this is a pretty reasonable gap. From close to open, this was a 0.5%, 0.46% gap. It's reasonable. We've definitely had bigger gaps than this. We've had substantially bigger gaps than this. Look at this one right here, 1%. So we definitely gap larger than this, but this is not a small gap. This would be a small gap right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are small gaps. So we got a pretty moderately sized. It's a good reaction. The market is happy. And again, Bitcoin started this. Bitcoin is the 24/7 market, right? So Bitcoin was the market that started moving first. And I think that's really good confirmation. It's the fact that Bitcoin's rallying off this good news. It's giving me like Silicon Valley Bank vibes. You know, back in 2021, or no, it couldn't have been. I think 2022 ending or 23 beginning, somewhere like that. I can't remember. Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Would have been 2023, right? Somewhere around there. Late 23, I don't know. And they collapsed, and Bitcoin immediately started rallying. You know, and it was in response to that news. And by the way, it wasn't because of the news. I want to be clear, right? Like, I don't think Bitcoin is rallying because of Venezuela, or that Bitcoin rallied because of Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, for example. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that these bullish factors, and there's tons of them, there's hundreds more that I'm not saying, that exist for Bitcoin. These bullish factors were already there. They already applied to the market. They were already valid. They've been valid for a while. They're still valid now, and they'll continue to be valid in the next few years, hopefully for a very, very long time. The news event is kind of just what gives us the fuse, or even the trigger, you know, might be the better word. You know, the news event is what gives... You know what's crazy on this fucking communist platform, YouTube? Yeah? I have to wonder, is it violent speech if I say the word trigger or fuse? Because they banned me, right? For, like, violent, like, something. I don't know. You know, like, it was the policy about, like, harmful content. You know, obviously they wouldn't tell me why. I've got to wonder, like, is that a bad word? Is it naughty to say the word trigger? Do you know what I'm saying, man? These commies are out of control. They need to relax, you know, with the censorship stuff. But, anyway, you know, the news acts as a bit of a, you know, trigger for... you know, all these other dominoes to start falling. You know, that's basically how I see this. And I think that's important because, you know, if one news event alone is enough to change the market, then, you know, fair enough. An example of that would be the pandemic, or, you know, maybe like a really, really big acquisition. I don't know, like something that's actually kind of groundbreaking. But, you know, most of the time, Venezuela was pretty groundbreaking too, I won't lie. You know, and so it's reasonable. But again, you know, it's not going to be that news event itself. It's not going to be that news situation itself. It's going to be the culmination of that, plus many other factors. Plus, you know, the technical chart looks good, whatever. You know, supply demand shifting over the last couple of days, weeks. You know, there are going to be signs. You know, but that's what I want you guys to keep in mind is, you know, people really just use news as the excuse for why something happened. The news uses the news as the excuse. Please understand, ladies and gents. The news themselves use news as the excuse for why the market is moving. Okay, I'm glad that we managed to get that out of the way. Now we get good news and the market has moved, shows a trend shift. Yes, you're right. That is a really good sign. And we got to see if this continues. But I'm definitely not going to hold my breath for that, right? Papa Pump is saying that it's a good sign. Things are changing because Bitcoin is responding positively to positive news. And that's what you would expect inside of a bull market. My problem with that is this has happened a couple times already in this market cycle and so on. And, you know, I just don't want to expect anything like that right now. I definitely agree with you, but I've also thought this in the past in this same market cycle and it hasn't really worked out. So, you know, but again, I don't think that matters. You know, it's really just seeing if Bitcoin does continue to establish, you know, a little bit of a better correlation with the S&P 500. And again, I think that's going to depend on if the S&P kind of keeps on rallying up, right? But, I mean, if you're watching these markets, what else can you expect to happen at this stage? You know, this is... Oh, man, what am I doing? Let's go on... go on this one here. My bad. You know, like 6,900 right here, where the S&P is sat at. That's hilarious. Because of the meme coin, man. These crypto degens are brilliant. The Veen says, imagine the irony of getting a warning for using the word trigger only in the context of giving a trigger warning. I know, it's crazy. America's 250th birthday, only good news allowed from here on out. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it'd be great for the whole world. It really would. But, yeah, if the S&P keeps popping higher, you know, at this point, we're, I mean, we're looking at a real blue sky breakout now, right? I mean, it's been stuck at this resistance level since October of 2025. As far as time frames, this... We having live issues, potentially. Yeah, I think we had a little network issue there, but... Where was I? Just want to make sure we're stable now, but it looks like we are stable. Yeah, we are back. Yeah, I think that was pretty brief, thankfully. Bank of America today telling clients to invest 4% into Bitcoin is massive. Yeah, I completely agree. That's incredible. And it's almost like, I don't know, they want their balance sheets to be more solvent or something. I got no idea. You know, could that be something to do with it? You know, have a little bit, you know, healthier balance sheets. Finally have the, I don't know, have the people making a little bit more money or something. Honestly, I don't know. But I just, you know, I feel like why? Like, why is the bank telling you to buy? I don't know. Maybe it's normal. Honestly, maybe it's just normal, and I've been missing this. And banks have always been advising people what to do with their money. That's kind of funny to think about, but I'm sure that's like super normal for a lot of very rich people. Bless them. They want to outsource it. That's definitely the reason. Well, one of it's only offered to the rich clients first. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the rich clients that have like portfolio managers, right, at these like major banks. That is so funny to think about. Here we go. Look at this. Bitcoin right here on the right-hand side. It's looking for that pop right here. 94,450. The level for it to pop above is going to be 94,500. So we'll see how this goes. Thoughts on XRP? We will be getting to XRP here shortly in a bit. What am I at here on the... How long have we been live for? Oh, an hour. Okay, nice. Probably actually been live for more like 50 minutes. That's pretty good though. Okay. So gap up on the S&P, I think that would really represent a real breakout here. And again, I think if Bitcoin is already following, then we are in really, really good posture. Do you know what? I think at this point we can switch over to altcoins and so on. No, we can't. No, we can't, because I'm not done on Bitcoin. I'm still not done on Bitcoin. Let's talk about beyond 106 a little bit more. If Bitcoin manages to get beyond 106,000, 107,000, its next resistance level sits at 117. Now, earlier when I was describing this level, I was telling you guys that this would be the real challenge. I don't really think so anymore. I feel like in this environment that Bitcoin's in, and with how well it's done under all of the heat it's had, you know, with the fact that it's rallying in line with traditional finance right now, the fact that I think Bitcoin can catch up very aggressively when it starts moving, you know, we know this. Bitcoin moves really aggressively in both directions. So we're going to get paid as well, you know, on some occasions, sometimes, when the market makers dare allow us, we will profit sometimes. Of course, not the attitude, I'm just mocking. But, you know, with that in mind, you know, I think definitely, you know, the stronger resistance level is right here. You know, I don't think Bitcoin's going to have too much of a problem up ahead. And so, you know, with that in mind, especially if we break 106, 107, 117 is still going to be resistance, and this is a really, really big resistance level. But again, with all the momentum that I think we're going to be carrying, we should be able to just slice straight through that resistance level. And I think that can easily put us far north of 120k. I think that's where, you know, these targets of 150, 140, you know, first we got to hit 130k. You know, but that's not even that far away. You know, like it's not actually that far away from our previous all-time high. And I think that we start bridging that gap pretty quick, man. I mean, I just do. And look at this right here on the right-hand side. That is Bitcoin breaking out right now, nearly, sitting right at the top of the range now, to the dollar almost. You know, just sitting at the very top of the range. See if Bitcoin wants to do anything like with this. We're going to continue to watch Bitcoin here on the DGen cam on the right-hand side as we go through this live stream. If you guys are finding this live stream useful, engaging, entertaining, if it's calming you down, anything productive like that, smash them up. We're closing in on 100 likes, only 24 away. Thank you all very much. smash up those likes if you are enjoying the stream so far. I really do appreciate it. We get it. Yeah. That's kind of my that's what I wanted to say on the upside. That's the downside. We've even covered short term. It's been a productive live stream, huh? It's been we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot. I feel like I'm only halfway through, but I don't know if I'll be going on for too much longer. My thoughts on the Venezuela situation. You know, like, it's interesting because, like, growing up, and as I studied history, I always had this understanding that America is the country that just kind of takes what it feels like is theirs. And for it to feel like it's theirs, I mean, that's, like, a pretty, like, low bar. You know, like, it's been historically pretty easy for Americans to justify taking something. And obviously, they only learned this from the Brits and so on, right? So, you know, it's not like America's unique in this, but America is the strongest at it. So, in a sense, it was almost refreshing, dare I say. You know, and really, I do feel this, though. It was almost refreshing that Trump just kind of did something as a kind of departure from, I mean, what do you even call it? From the, I don't even want to call it femininity of the previous administration. It wasn't femininity. It was really bad what they did. You know, femininity is not actually bad. Even in government, it's not as bad as what they did. You know, what those guys did in the last term, you know, like skirts and makeup in the military, like weird shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, that was a different America. What we saw over the weekend was a US president handling business. And, you know, sovereignty and all that, I really do see those arguments. It's bad in a sense. I think it's also bad, many of the things that Maduro is doing. But what I'm really glad about, you know, from our perspectives here in this market, is that, you know, we're finally starting to see some pressure release in response to this news. I don't want to spend too much time on the moral argument, but I do have to say, if we're in for another 3 years of America finally having some fucking testosterone back in its veins, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be good for the whole world. Everybody wins, especially us. So, that's good to see. And yeah, I don't really mind crossing this line into talking about politics. I actually think that it's harder and harder to avoid it, especially if you want to discuss markets. In fact, I feel like my political leanings specifically have helped me make money in this market over the last couple of years. And have helped me not lose money, almost more importantly. You know, if I read the political landscape wrong, which I didn't, but if I did, I think I would have either made less money or specifically I would have lost a lot more money. And I have friends that are like this. I have friends that read the political, otherwise very smart people that are very talented in this market, but they read the political landscape wrong in 2024 and 2025, but specifically, of course, in 2024. But obviously that still bled into 2025. Many people don't learn their lessons. And these people that read the politics wrong, read the markets wrong as well. So I think that's important. But, yes, let's bring it back to the markets here. Bears have been very silent for a few days now, can't complain. Yeah, and it's eerie, right? I mean, this is why I'm saying that we can definitely still see a harsh, you know, pullback. Especially after the breakout. You know, if Bitcoin pops up to, like, you know, $96,000, it's totally reasonable that we just kind of have a sharp pullback down to like 88K, right? Like, we kind of have to expect that to be possible. But I just don't feel like we're looking at a super high probability of any of that nasty stuff happening. Only 17 likes away from 100, guys. Thank you all very much. Let's start taking a look at some other interesting things here. I want to see if there's anything cooking here on X. If there's anything interesting worth looking at here on Twitter. Let's take a look here. One sec. As I pull this up, probably not a lot, but what we got here?
I mean, it looks like shit coins are pushing a little bit, you know, like the trenches. I don't know if this is like a trend. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if the trenches are waking up a little bit. Certainly other shit coins are waking up a little bit. Yup. OBV starting to, you know, like we've got bullish factors kind of all around here and bullish signs. I definitely agree with narratives that suggest that altcoins are about to gain massively against Bitcoin. Well, look at the... Let's look at... let me just see if I want to look at the dominance chart right now with you guys. No. We'll stick to this for now. We won't look at the dominance chart just yet. What we got here? So... US December ISM manufacturer reading hits 14-month low. Manufacturers report significant slowdown in activity, bullish for assets. I don't even know what that means. That sounds pretty important. Trump's approval rating rises to the highest level in 3 months. And this is what we're going to see, right? Like, I think this was pretty obvious for the sane people watching. I know there's a lot of you, you know, who watched what happened last year with Trump losing so much support from so many different directions. And, you know, Trump is still Trump. You know, like, people are going to talk a big game about a lot of different things, but, you know, Trump still won the presidency 3 times in a row. Like, he's still that guy. And he's going to win hearts back. I really felt throughout 2025 that it was kind of that period that you might expect when situations are really bad, which they were, that things get a little bit worse for a period of time before they get better. And it's still way too early to say that, but that's kind of how I felt in 2025. And I feel like now in the first few days of 2026, we're starting to see evidence of that picture build up. And we know where the next kind of rounds of evidence might come in, you know, like the Fed chair changing and things like that. I think, you know, if we start to see breakouts, the S&P breaking above its resistance, Bitcoin breaking above 94, breaking above 106, stuff like that, like these things are going to really confirm with, you know, the only things that really matter, which is us making profits. These things are going to confirm in a very real way for us that, you know, tides are changing. And I think, again, that's where Trump wins, you know, and what better time, right? If he was going to piss people off, it better be, you know, far away from the midterms. If he can make 2026 feel good, and I think he's going to do it through the markets in large part. I think there's going to be a few different ways he's going to try and do it, but I think markets are a big one. What is this? U.S. Department of Energy announces $2.7 billion in funding to strengthen American uranium enrichment. The U.S. is awarding $900 million each to Centrus Energy, LEU, and 2 other nuclear fuel makers. As expected, nuclear energy is becoming even more important. Fantastic. Good news. Good news. Good news. The U.S. to potentially seize Venezuela's Bitcoin's reserves. You know, I didn't... no DGen cam. We'll take a look at the DGen cam in a bit. I actually can't show you that right now, but I mean... Let's just switch back to the charts here for a moment because we do have some price action here. Bitcoin is pulling back right now. Pretty sharp pullback so far. It's sharper than the previous pullback. So, you know, we'll continue to watch this. I'm not worried about this at all, obviously. We'll continue to watch this as this picture continues to develop here. But let's continue looking at Twitter. I've got quite a bit more that I do want to cover with you guys here on this stream. So we're definitely going to be continuing to kind of go through that here. But is everything still good on the live stream? It is, right? Obviously. But I just want to make sure because... Hang on. What we got here? Yeah, it looks fine. It looks completely fine. Okay, good. Good to know. Yeah, I've seen this Venezuela Bitcoin news. You know, I don't really care for it too much. I don't think anything big is going to happen with that. Maybe they add it to like, maybe they create some like national Bitcoin reserve, the US, you know, and they add it to that. But I don't know. I'm not really going to speculate on that. I'm pretty sure the amount that they hold amounts to like some small amount of money, like $20 million or $200 million. You know, I'm sure any of us would be very happy to step into money like that. But for a government, it's just not that much money. So anyway,
That's kind of a couple of the things I see right here on Twitter. Nothing too crazy or even too interesting. Let us bring this back to the charts. Let's take a look at some altcoins. Let's take a look at some Bitcoin dominance to start. So Bitcoin dominance sitting at, my bad, wrong chart. Bitcoin dominance sitting at 59.3. It did see a little bit of a drop here, which is pretty nice. Are we replaying the chart? No, we're not. Yeah, this is today. We did see a little bit of a drop right at the beginning of the year. Now a little bit of a climb back up. Bitcoin gaining some dominance as it rallies hard, which is nice to see. That is still good, but looks like it's already finding some resistance. I mean, I'm not really the guy that likes to, you know, analyze this chart as though it's a normal price chart, but you know, we are kind of hitting a pretty consistent support level and finding resistance there. We'll see how that continues to go. I'm not gonna analyze this chart too closely, but overall, I am expecting this chart to point down massively. Whether that means we take the scenic route first, I don't know, but obviously, so far we have been taking the scenic route, so we might definitely expect that to continue. But you know, I think as soon as the market settles inside of some bullish energy, I think we'll see dominance drop off a cliff. I think it'll look like these kind of drops here. And this represents many billions of dollars flowing from Bitcoin into other altcoins, which of course would be very fun. It would be very, very nice for us here in these markets. That's pretty sweet. So that's Bitcoin dominance. Let's take a look at some altcoins specifically. We've already covered a lot of this inside of the last BroFi weekly stream, so I'm not going to go into them too much here, but I will highlight some of the ones that you guys have been asking for. I do want to mention to you guys watching here live and on the replay that if you check out the link at the top of the description here, you can get yourself inside of BroFi. BroFi is a group where you're getting direct access to me and my own tools and strategies that I deploy inside of these markets. You can talk to me directly. It's really, really cool. We've had a lot of great interactions. And you can also learn from me directly as well with our content that we've put out that's designed to really kind of transform how you approach these markets, really from the ground up. It's been incredible for those that have looked into it. And we've already seen some pretty incredible results. We've seen many people managed to pay off their fee from joining pretty quickly after joining as well, and that's because it's only $100 to join, so that's pretty sweet as well. But do keep in mind that trading and investing are really risky. Even inside of BroFi, obviously you can still lose all of your money, so you know there are no guaranteed results whatsoever, but what we have seen so far, I'm really happy with it. And if you think you might be interested, check it out with the top link in the description. It is $100 to join, and that is where we went in depth on altcoin opportunities I see and trade setups that I like or don't like. We went into a lot of detail there, so I'm going to save that for the next BroFi stream. But XRP is a coin that you guys specifically requested quite a bit in this live stream. XRP against the dollar has seen a really nice recovery back into its range. This recovery now from low to high spans 24%, which is fantastic. But what I'm more interested in is the Bitcoin chart, which actually never broke structure, and it's now bounced quite hard. So that's really nice to see. XRP is very much still intact and still looking very healthy. Yeah, so I love that. That's exactly what I want to see. So that's XRP right there. And then looking at some of the other coins, there's not actually a whole lot more going on. So let's take a look at stock markets here. I want to take a look at Tesla. Tesla managed to hit a low right here of about 436. It's now bouncing up because of, you know, everything bouncing up a little bit today. We'll see how this continues to go. I really hope that it continues to trend down. And if it does, I'm definitely going to be interested in more action there as well. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here in the markets. Let me see if I'm missing anything. I feel like there are a couple things I wanted to cover with you guys here that I didn't get to. But you know what? I think I'm actually about done here. So I am probably going to go ahead and round this one off. Unfortunately, we didn't get the breakout live. Once I end the live stream, we'll probably get the breakout in standard fashion. That's no problem at all. As long as we get the breakout, I'm happy. If we don't get the breakout, I'll be happy as well. No problem, though. No problem. The markets will do what they want when they want. You and I, we are only here to spectate and put a little bit of money in when we feel like there's a nice opportunity, when we feel like we've got a very good chance of making profits. Not before that. We're not going to be silly about this. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I like where the market's at. If we see any big price moves over the next, hours, next days, we'll be live right here again. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss out on that content. Smash those likes up one more time. Let's get ourselves above 100 to close this live stream off. But with that, ladies and gents, really do appreciate everything. We'll see you all in the next one. Shout out to Papa Pump. Last night I officially hit my 3rd Bitcoin, lads. Congratulations, sir. That is incredible. That is incredible. All right, guys. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you all in the next one.